Whew. Hello. Video diary numero uno. Listen, I'm not really one for like stream of consciousness sort of setting. I usually prepare for things. However, I'm feeling very spontaneous right now. And I just want to record something without having it figured out. I feel like that's where I'm at in my life. I feel much more okay now than I used to with not having things figured out. And that feels so liberating. Just like throwing yourself into the fire, embracing mystery, and seeing what happens. I've been writing a lot the past week or so. Now, it's always fun in the beginning. It's not as fun when you really get into writing something and trying to make it better and improve it. I'm even experiencing that right now because I've been writing a lot the past week or so, mainly in a very free sort of way where I'm not trying to write something. I'm just observing and taking notes. That's kind of my approach. And I've been very much enjoying that. And I want to keep up with this habit because I guess in a way that's kind of like journaling. But I'm not just journaling about how I feel or what I'm thinking. I'm taking in the environment around me and just noting different things throughout my day. So each day I have like a new note in my notes app and I'm just writing down situations and things that I'm observing, and it's so fun and very freeing. But I've had a few ideas just in the past few days for different things that I want to write about, and then that's when it gets a little bit hairy because you really start getting in the weeds of a certain topic and you're trying to make sense of it. You're trying to articulate exactly the thought that you're trying to convey and conveying it in the best way. And there's a few ideas I've had the past few days that I'm trying to work through. There are different ideas. I'm bouncing around a lot, but I still haven't finished anything, which that's fine. I'm not trying to rush it. Just trying to write and edit things that I really want to work on. And then when they're done, they're done. But I'm not trying to rush the creation process. Trying to enjoy it. But trying to get an idea into a fully formed thing that you feel comfortable sharing with others is so hard. That's where I can get a little bit discouraged or sometimes frustrated, but it can also be really fun. So it's very complex in my mind, but that process can be really fun for me, editing things down and deleting. And it's like when you go to something that you wrote just the day before and you come back to it with fresh eyes, you can see certain things that can be improved. And you can see it so clearly, but then there's times where you don't see it clearly and you don't know what it needs to be fully articulated the way that you want it to be, fully thought out the way you want it to be. So, yeah, I've just been writing a lot and it's been so good. I feel like I'm in a creative zone right now with my writing, but I'm not even doing anything super novel. I'm not writing a novel. I'm not working on anything crazy. I'm not necessarily working on anything super creative, although I am being creative just by doing it, just by writing. But I'm personally really loving this approach of observing the world, taking notes, and just fleshing out the ideas that I am curious about and that I want to flesh out more, instead of putting so much pressure on the process and putting pressure on myself to have a good idea. It's something I've always grappled with. I have always loved writing, but then I always felt this pressure to find the perfect topic to write about, and then I have to articulate it perfectly, and then I can share it, and then people will love it and enjoy it and read it. But that's something that I've always struggled with, is like finding the topics to write about, because I'm not really a fiction writer. I just don't really do fiction. I can enjoy reading fiction. I enjoy some kind of like fantasy books, but I'm not a fantasy writer. And I've found over the years that I enjoy nonfiction like a lot more. I enjoy writing nonfiction, and I do enjoy reading some nonfiction, just reading people's perspectives or reading about things that I'm interested in. So finding topics to write about, I've always just gotten stuck there, because I'm not really necessarily telling stories, but I kind of am. Just over the past week or so, a lot of the writing I've been doing does feel kind of story based, but it's more like real life stories. And I think that's what excites me more. And it's not even like exciting stories. It's very normal, everyday, ordinary stories. But I enjoy that. That's what I'm enjoying right now, at least. So yeah, I've been writing. I've also been trying to read Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. And boy, oh boy, it is so beautiful and incredible, but I am like, what am I reading? I love reading poetry. One of my favorite poets is Mary Oliver, and I think I love her so much because her poetry feels accessible to me. And I love that about certain poets, specifically Mary Oliver, where I feel like I could suggest her to anyone, whether you like poetry or not. And they could like get it. They could enjoy it. I love Mary Oliver. I've been slowly, very, very slowly making my way through Devotions by Mary Oliver, which is like a collection of a bunch of her poetry. I've been slowly going through that book for like years now, probably like 2 years at least. But I've just been soaking up each poem, and like, it's not like I'm reading it every day. So I've just been reading it here and there, but I did pick up a copy of Leaves of Grass from the thrift store like 2 weeks ago, and I'm just very into it. I was reading Walt Whitman's like original introduction to Leaves of Grass, which I haven't even finished because it feels dense to me, and it's a little lengthy. I want to read it. I'm that kind of person where like I like to read an introduction before I get into the thing that I'm reading. And it's his original introduction before the poem begins, and I just love that. But it's dense. But it's good, but it's like some things just go over my head, and then I feel like, not that I'm illiterate. I'm literate. I am literate. However, there's some things that just don't make sense to me, or they just go over my head. And same thing with reading poetry. And I just started the actual poem Leaves of Grass yesterday, like last night, because I was just kind of skipping through the introduction. I wanted to get to some of the poetry. I wanted to read poetry. And so I just laid in my bed and was reading it out loud to myself, which like, I love reading poetry aloud. Even if I don't understand it, even if I don't know what's happening, just reading it out loud does something to me, and it feels so good and it feels so right. So I read several pages of that last night, and I was just like, I don't really understand. And that's something I always felt embarrassed to admit to anyone, like, especially people who are poets or who just really love poetry and read a lot of poetry. I always felt like that would make me feel stupid. Like, I just don't understand, or it takes me a while to wrap my head around it, or I just want to like go to Google and be like, can you explain this to me? I took poetry courses, I took literature courses in college, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I loved English classes, like, loved them. That's where I shined. But I do remember sometimes reading poetry and just being like, how did certain people come to these conclusions that like this poem is about this thing, or this poem means this, or the poet made this specific choice to elicit this specific feeling. I'm like, how do you get there? How? Because I don't understand. Most of the time for me, when I read poetry, I can catch a feeling. I can sort of like catch the vibe, for lack of better words, or the energy of the poem. Even then, sometimes I can't catch the feeling, and I'm just kind of like, I don't really know what this is about. But most of the time I catch the feeling, and I just sort of experience the feeling, and then I move on, I let it go and move on to the next poem and try to crack the code on the next one. But I don't ever feel like I fully understand. And I'm like, does everyone feel this way with poetry, or is it just me? It's like, I love poetry and I feel like I should understand it more, but it feels like a secret language that I don't know. But I enjoy it. I savor it. And I just keep going back to it, and I just keep wanting to read it, and I want to write poetry, but I'm like, what makes a poem? Because man, there's a lot of definitions for poetry and like what a poem is, because I have read some that are very structured and like iambic pentameter, and then you read some that are just free verse and just like whatever, and I'm like, how does one decide what is a poem? I don't even understand. So how am I supposed to write poetry if I don't understand the formula? Sometimes there is a formula to a good poem, but sometimes there's like not. It seems like there's not, but maybe there's a secret formula that I just don't know. I read Mary Oliver's A Poetry Handbook a few years ago, and I honestly would love to reread, because that's such a good staple for any poet or anyone interested in poetry. And I remember kind of throughout the book, I feel like she mentioned more than once just the importance of reading poetry, like acquainting yourself with the greats, because they're greats for a reason, and just reading their poetry and sort of studying it, but also just experiencing it. And I'm like, I try. Sometimes I feel frustrated reading poetry and just feeling like I don't get it. And then I feel like I have to rely on some other source to tell me what it means, or to explain it to me, to explain the intricacies and why the poet made this choice to break the line here and use this punctuation. And I'm like, I just feel like I can't crack that code. So if I ever go to write something that's kind of poetic, I'm like, is it poetry or is it just prose? What makes poetry? What makes poetry good poetry? How did we decide who the greats are? Like Walt Whitman. I mean, I'm reading Leaves of Grass, and I was reading it last night, and I was like, wow, this is so good. But why do I feel that way? Why do I think it's so good? I actually don't know. There's some elements that I could sense the rhythm and the rhyme, even though it's not like a very strict rhyme scheme. I could feel the rhyming throughout and the pacing. Like I could feel these sort of tools, I guess, working in the background. I could feel the rhythm and the rhyme and feel the pacing, but I didn't even quite understand what the subject matter was about at times. I was just kind of getting lost in it, which I guess could be a good thing. getting lost in a really good poem, but also it felt like I was really lost, like I don't know what's happening. I used to be so scared to admit that to myself, let alone like sharing it with anyone else, because I'm not really like a writer who has like writer friends. I'm very much on my own island, and I look to other writers online that I've found over the years and I admire, but I don't really have writer friends or any poets in my life that write poetry. Like I don't have people in my life like that. But I feel like when you look at people online, it just seems like some people have it way more together. Or like there's some people out there who are very scholarly about poetry. Like they went to school for it. They learned about writing because they majored in it. Like, and they have all these like accolades or accomplishments or whatever. And some people, I feel like, can be a little snooty when it comes to poetry and writing in general and what's good or what's not good. And some people seem so much smarter than me about it, which is fine. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room, but I also would love more understanding of poetry. What makes it good, and how do I write it? How do I write poetry? 'Cause I don't know. I've kind of like written poems, but none that I feel really proud of. And I'm always unsure if it's actually a poem. But I have no one in my personal life that like I can bounce these ideas or thoughts off of, because I don't have any writer friends. I'm a writer. I'm a lone writer. I don't know. I don't even know if other people have the answers. Maybe they're just faking it, and maybe they don't even know what makes a poem and they're just faking it, or they're just lying. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I would love to read Leaves of Grass and understand it more. I would love to have more understanding. But I think that's also something that draws me into poetry, is that I really don't understand it. And I don't feel like I necessarily have to understand it. Like I feel like I don't have to understand it to get it, if that makes sense. Like I don't have to necessarily be able to articulate what a poem means to understand it from within. I think that's what I love about poetry, and what intrigues me so much about it is because I feel like, for me at least, it's more about the feeling of the poem, experiencing the poem, getting lost in it, and not having it figured out. But I also would love to be able to talk about it with people, or like if someone asked me like, what did you gather from this poem? I would love to be able to have an answer. But I feel like I don't have an answer most of the time. I just read it and I just vibe out. I just catch the vibe, I catch the feeling, and I move on. And that's all it is for me. I'm currently having turmeric. I can't even remember the kind of tea that I'm having. I did take a picture of it earlier. Organic turmeric ginger green tea. It's so delicious. I got it from Whole Foods. It's like way tastier than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be kind of like, I didn't know what to expect. But in the ingredients, it's turmeric, green tea, ginger, cinnamon, and organic natural flavors, which like, okay, whatever that means. Whatever that means. And I'm really enjoying this tea. And I'm just low-key enjoying the weather. Earlier, I was a little bit annoyed about it. It has been very gray here. It's just that time of year where it's more gray than not gray, which is great. It's fun. I was a little bit annoyed earlier, but then I came in my room from having lunch. I like came back in my room and just I had my tea and I was like, wow, this is actually really cozy. I want to sit down and like chat. So here I've been chatting for like 20 minutes about a whole lot of stuff. Basically, I love to write and I love poetry and I love reading poetry. I want to understand it more. I've been really enjoying writing recently without this pressure of like trying to make anything of it. I could share like a whole story time right now. I maybe should save that for another day, but long story short, I think it was last year that I had started a Substack and I felt like I had added this pressure to myself to make it a thing where like I put one out every week and I shared some bit of writing every week and took very much a newsletter approach to Substack where I was like, I'm sending out this like email to people every week. So like I need to keep up with it. Then I really fell off with that because like it was last year, I think. I had a crazy life experience and was just like, I'm done. And like I stopped writing for a little while and I stopped the Substack and I've just been trying to find my footing with writing ever since then. Wow, it's been like a year of like, I'm just having that epiphany. I write here and there, but it really has been a while since I've like written pretty regularly. It feels good. I'm really enjoying it right now because I'm just writing to write and like try to articulate these thoughts and feelings that I have, share stories and make sense of things or try to make sense of things. And I don't feel like pressure to share it necessarily. Last year, I really put pressure on myself to write every week and share a little something on Substack. And that's just not the way I want to go about writing. Like, whatever these things are that I'm writing, I don't know what you call them, if they're like essays or a story, like nonfiction kind of stories. I have no idea. But like I want to share them and put them out there when they're done and when they're ready. And I'm not trying to rush myself. I'm trying to embrace the like messy process and write and then edit and then refine and delete things and add things and just tinker with it until it's done. And then maybe share it. And maybe some people will read it and maybe they won't. But I just want to write. And I have been writing and it's been good. But I guess I just realized I don't have to do this a certain way. I don't have to write in that sort of way and share something every week. I go on Substack and there's so many different kinds of people that use Substack, and some people, they write things and they just share when they have something to share, kind of using it as like just a way to like host the things that they've written. But some people do use it like a newsletter and they're sending stuff out multiple times a week, and that method was just not working for me. I just couldn't keep up with it and I didn't really want to do that. And I felt like I was just writing just to get something out and just to add something onto the internet instead of sharing something on the internet because I had something to say. I felt like I was always trying to come up with something to say, which was very much trying to like force it and push it. And I feel like a very big theme for me recently is just flow instead of force. So just going with the flow instead of trying to force it. And that's my motto right now with my writing. Just go with the flow. be in the messy process of trying to write something and then like it'll be done when it's done. I have the luxury right now of not having to have a deadline. I'm not writing a book. I'm not really writing for a living. I'm just writing because I love to write. So I have that luxury of just time and like sitting with ideas, and I don't have to meet a deadline. Deadlines are helpful and they can keep you accountable, but I don't have to have deadlines. That's pretty liberating. This has been kind of liberating to just sit here and talk. Stream of consciousness, just let it out. I don't know, man. I just feel like this is, at least right now, this is the approach I want to take with things that I'm sharing online. Maybe some things can be a little bit more polished. I'm not saying I'm just going to be rambling and sharing things on the internet, but I am seeking that sort of laid back approach to where I can like enjoy it instead of trying to make it something. Like, I'm not a brand, like I'm a person. I'm not trying to run a brand. I am trying to share things that I'm working on, that I'm writing, that I'm creating. And like, that's it. Take me back to the days of old. Take me back to the days of the old internet. Like, I love the new. I am so that person. I love the new. I love new technologies. I love moving forward. I love thinking about the future. So I don't always want to live in the past. But there was something very special about the internet when I first was really getting on, like when I was getting online, and it was just different. It just felt different, more like laid back, and people were just sharing and having fun and actually being social on social media. But now the landscape has changed and it is just a different world. But I want my little world, my little pocket of the internet to just be real and to not be so polished and to not like be like I have all my stuff together and like I have it all figured out. Like, I am in process. I am in process. I am a person in process. I am a writer in process. I am a work in progress. I am a woman in process. Like, I'm just me. I'm just figuring it out. I think some things online are like too polished. I think that's what I'm getting at. Like, some things are just too polished and we're taking it too seriously. And I used to be that way and I used to want to take it so seriously, but now I'm like, oh, why? I don't want to take it seriously anymore. I don't know. There's some things I don't know and there's some things I do know. And that's the way it goes. That's how the cookie crumbles. I must get back to work, like my real like day job kind of work. And then I will attempt to read more Whitman today and see if I can make sense of any of it. Ciao.